Hey, good morning. Let's go over today's trade plan. So, in the overnight session, we saw a continuation of the sell move that started yesterday afternoon. And from there, we had responsive buyers active at the 1850 to 1852 zone. And we've seen a pretty decent reversal off that zone so far. At this point, heading into the open, the short-term bias is going to be neutral, and there is still potential for ES to fail at the 79.75 to 81.75 and the 86 to 88 half initial resistance zone, with the 86 to 88 half being a pretty important area at this point for the buyers and sellers. So as long as ES can hold below initial resistance or pre-market resistance, there is still potential for sellers to step in an aggressive way and drive the market back down towards the 70 quarter gap fill and quite possibly lower into the 63 quarter to 66 quarter pre-market support. And depending on how the market is shaping up in real time will help us figure out whether we're seeing excessive weakness, which can lead to a move into the overnight low at 50 to 53 and a test of 55 half to 57, and whether we can go even lower. So right now the short-term bias is essentially in the process of being developed. And that's why it's quite neutral right now, is that, we've seen a pretty strong move since last week. We've seen a decent move in the overnight session to the upside, but the bigger picture bias continues to be bearish, and right now the market is very much neutral, where there's potential to test some higher prices, perhaps initial resistance, but that initial resistance zone is quite key, and it's still a hurdle for the buyers. And if the market can hold below 86 to 88 half, then we can simply balance at lower prices, and from there eventually it can even resume that larger time frame downtrend. So right now we're trying to answer that question, and the market is trying to figure that out. So right now we are going to be open to longs and shorts. We have to be more cautious on the long side at aggressive prices. So right here at pre-market resistance, for example, is a risky area to buy the market because we are near short-term resistance. And for that reason, we are going to be selective on the long side today because we are opening or set to open near the resistance areas. So unless we're getting good enough trade location and the market is setting up in real time in a way that there is at least potential to get up to the 86, 88 half, we're going to have to be careful on the long side. As far as the short side goes, pre-market resistance, initial resistance are good areas to attempt shorts, looking for a move back down into the overnight range. In the event that the market breaks out above 86 to 88 half, that could shift the short-term control or confirm the short-term control to be more on the buy side. And that can bring yesterday's high into play, 94 quarter to 95.75, and potentially even the zones above. And if the market is short-term exhausted into those zones, then we can still get responsive sellers active on first test of the resistance zones above. So right now we are going to have to be, like I said, more cautious on initiating any aggressive longs. If you're getting good trade location and the market's exhausted into a zone, then on the day time frame, there's still going to be potential to get some edge. But right now, the market bias on the short term is very neutral, and it makes sense to be a little bit more cautious, a little bit more selective on the trades that are taken, because the market is attempting to kind of resolve the directional bias and really figure out whether the buyers are going to step in any decent way, or whether we're just going to balance here, fail, and then resume that larger time frame downtrend. And that's why on first test of the resistance zones, it is a high odds trade and a high reward to risk trade to attempt a short. The only time that it would make sense to be careful on the short side is if we were seeing excessive strength and excessive upside momentum. So if we're seeing a lot of sustained upside momentum and broad market strength, then we'll be a little bit more careful and attempt to get the ideal trade location. But just a lack of that strength could lead to continued balancing below pre-market resistance, below initial resistance. So at these prices, we'd rather be more aggressive on the short side, and once the market gets really exhausted on the downside, then perhaps we can consider a long, or if we're seeing a lot of signs in real time that support a move into 86, 88.5. So those are the main ideas heading into the open. Let's see if the sell side can maintain control from yesterday afternoon's move, and we'll take it from there.